What's up everybody, Jim Games Live here, and in today's video, we're going to be learning about Sabaton. Now, today's video comes sponsored from Major Winters over on Patreon, and truth be told, I've actually been trying to cover Sabaton for quite some time now. I actually already recorded and uploaded one reaction video to the song Bismarck, which is incredibly visually pleasing and sonically pleasing as well. It's a great song and it's an awesome video. It's just quite the experience to really get into. Now, I didn't know much about that video or the band when I went into it. In fact, I went into it almost completely blind. Now, at that point, I got hundreds of comments saying actually there's more to this band than meets the eye and that I'm giving them credit for. And they were absolutely right. You were 100% right. This band here, they talk about history, they talk about stories, great battles. They're incredibly educational. In fact, to the point where a lot of history teachers actually show their students music videos and songs and stuff like that, and gets the younger generation interested in history. So that alone to me is just it makes this band important without even hearing one note from what they're capable of. Now, so I've done a little bit of research on just basically what these guys do, and they have this YouTube channel. It's called Sabaton History, where they sit down and they talk about some of the music and possibly what went into writing these kind of songs. I've been meaning to get to it, and I just really haven't had the time. And now that I get a sponsored video, I figured we might as well get into it today and move forward with learning about Sabaton. So we're going to switch screens right over here. Beautiful. If you're new around here, please consider liking and subscribing because I do this sort of thing all the time, and I'd love to have you here with me. All right, without further ado, let's learn about 82nd All the Way.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joaquin from Sabaton, and this is Sabaton History.
Yeah. The American 82nd Division was formed during World War I and was known as the All-American Division.
And our song, 82nd All the Way, is about that division and Sergeant Alvin York.
Got the music?
For the poor of the United States in the 19-teens, life was tough everywhere. But deep in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, where people lived in small communities, distrusted outsiders, and carried guns and knives wherever they went, violence was omnipresent. Growing up as an impoverished farmer's boy there, Alvin York was used to the harsh environment, where people would solve their social tensions or take out their frustrations by drinking, gambling, and brawling. He was no exception, but in 1915, he forsook his violent past and dedicated his life to the Church of Christ. Fast forward 2 years. News of America's entry into the World War reached the little mountain community slowly, and it was not until early June 1917 that the call came to register for the draft. York sent his draft card back, having written on it, "I don't want to fight," and even wrote a letter explaining his religious beliefs that wouldn't allow him to join the war. But the draft board rejected his letter, arguing that the Bible was kind of open to interpretation, and war was a big part of it anyhow. York was left with no choice and was sent to join the 82nd Division for basic training in February 1918. Today, the 82nd is famous for its deeds as an airborne division in the Second World War. But back in 1918, they called it the All-American Division, made up of men from all over the states. At first, it had been Southerners like York, but soon the division was filled with men who were considered too troublesome or unruly for other divisions. Many of them recent immigrants from Europe who hadn't been in the country long enough to speak proper English. York was not very popular with the others because of his rigid religious beliefs, especially not with his superiors. But he did what he was told, and that was good enough. He was a natural soldier and a remarkable marksman.
That's all you gotta do. Do what you're told. Something tells me this guy's gonna get broken. You know, he's a man of God. He does not want to be there. His platoon and his supervisors don't really like him because he's probably very rigid and talks about God and stuff all the time and might not be suitable or might not be, you know, the most popular thing in a war-like environment. But I mean, as long as you do what you're told, I mean, that's kind of enough to, I guess, for you to keep doing your thing, especially since they need every man. This is wild. Something tells me though, this guy's he's gonna snap. He's gonna break.
By September 1918, York and the 82nd were in France and had taken part in the Saint-Mihiel offensive. They now prepared to join the great Allied counteroffensive that was to break the German positions in the Argonne Forest. On October 3rd, near the ruins of the village of Varennes-en-Argonne, they marched out. French artillery batteries were shelling the forest, though, and were unknowingly hitting their own troops trapped there. There were even rumors of a lost battalion of men that was surrounded and about to be wiped out in those woods. The American public was waiting for such a story. The big press agencies wanted eyewitness stories from the reporters, and there was a lust for sensation among the public back home, which knew little of the war in Europe and hungered for news and first-hand accounts. For the reporters, it mattered little whether the story was about a hero or was a tragedy. Either made good headlines. But no one could have guessed they were so close to the two biggest American stories of the war. It did not take long for York's battalion to find the enemy. As the doughboys surged forward, they were hit by heavy fire from machine guns and mortars from a place identified as Hill 223. This was a major German position, and York's men were to cover the flank as the hill was taken. But as they were about to mop up resistance in the woods, a German counterattack struck, driving them back up the hill, where a ferocious battle for the crest was fought. The Americans prevailed, but York found himself standing at the top of a hill, surrounded by the dead and wounded. Sleep did not come easy after that, but York sought refuge in the Bible. Through shells of death with all their agitation, thou wilt protect me if I will only trust in thy grace. Bless thy holy name.
Can't imagine that. Can't imagine just being surrounded by all that death.
The night of October 8th, as the Lost Battalion, who are also the subject of a Sabaton song, and who we've already done an episode about, had finally been found and the survivors were leaving the forest, it was York's turn to move back in. It was not until the early morning that they were back at Hill 223, and the German shells were falling again. Under heavy gas attacks and mortar fire, panic began to rise. But panic is best fought off by action. Bayonets first, they rushed into the woods. York's platoon was cut in half by a German machine gun, and the survivors broke off the attack. Despite the terror, York rallied his squad and moved through the thick undergrowth and thorny bushes in an attempt to outflank the enemy position. But the forest was a maze, and the squad soon lost all sense of direction. As they emerged from the next line of bushes, they encountered two German medical orderlies. After a shared moment of disbelief, the Germans bolted. York's men, cursing and firing, gave chase. Running through the woods and thick bushes, they unknowingly went deep into German territory. Having lost the German medics, they emerged in a small clearing with dozens of German soldiers in front of them, chatting or having a meal. A lot of them were shirtless. But as they noticed the Americans with their menacing rifles and bayonets, they threw everything to the ground, threw up their hands into the air. York and his men, greatly outnumbered by their new prisoners, were about to search them when they were spotted by a German machine gun nest. They must have been overzealous bastards because they began firing into the crowd, hitting friend and foe alike. In the chaos of bullets and screams, York's best friend in the battalion was hit and went down in a pool of blood. That was it. The mild-mannered, God-fearing, Bible-reading Alvin York simply snapped, and anger and fury took over. As everyone else scrambled for their lives, York dashed forward, rifle in hand. He pushed up the hill, circling around the machine gun nest until he was atop a ridge overlooking the German position. York raised his rifle and pulled the trigger. One by one, the Germans went down. York killed them without mercy, but with extraordinary precision, until the machine gun was silenced and 19 dead Germans lay around it. As
19. Okay. I mean, all right. Yeah, I knew it was going to break him. I knew it was going to break him somehow, but I didn't know he killed 19 of them. So this guy's going from a guy that doesn't even want to be there, all right? Tried to get out of it. He wrote a letter. They basically said, nope, sorry, your Bible doesn't protect you. There's plenty of death and destruction in that. To killing 19 people. Man, this has got to rip this guy apart. Wow.
As York took a moment to survey his work, another group of Germans burst from the bushes, bayonets first. Caught off guard, York dropped his rifle and drew his .45 pistol. After shooting the leader from just a few feet away, he kept on killing and killing. Dead Germans lay all around him, and all went silent. A German lieutenant slowly got up, his hands raised. York kept the pistol aimed at the man's head. In a strong German accent, the officer tremblingly said, "If you stop shooting, I will make them give up." York kept his finger on the trigger, staring like death himself into the eyes of the German, ready to end his existence at any moment. Slowly, the German officer took a whistle out of his pocket, blew into it, and then yelled an order towards the bushes behind him. One after the other, German soldiers began appearing from behind the trees and bushes. So did the remaining Americans who had finally caught up with York. Seeing his men, York calmed down for a moment. But then a German soldier threw a hand grenade into the crowd. He missed York. York did not miss him, shooting the man dead on the spot. The other Germans offered no resistance.
Wow.
They began leading the column of prisoners back down the way they came, guarding them warily as they were clearly outnumbered. They made their way through the maze of woods, and another German platoon crossed their paths. But they were exhausted and astonished by the situation, and they gave up.
Whoa.
A short while after that, they encountered yet another group of Germans who raised their weapons ready to shoot. Only York, pressing his pistol in the back of the German lieutenant, convinced him to think again. And all of them, except for one young German soldier clinging to his rifle, dropped their weapons. York shot the boy dead without hesitation. The column continued. Finally, out of...
Wow. What a difference, huh? I mean, he both called the boy young and a boy, and York shot and killed him point blank because he wasn't putting his gun down. He could have just been afraid. Who knows? I mean, obviously they didn't really give us too much, information on it, except for that he was clinging to it and that he was young and a boy. But I guess they were all young boys, I guess. At this point, I've lost count of how many people he's killed. Last I counted, it was like 20, and then he said he killed a bunch more. So, man, what a difference. What a difference. This guy went from just being a Bible person, the man of God, to this. It's crazy what we're all capable of, when push comes to shove. And this guy just absolutely snapped, and I guess killed another one and captured a ton of prisoners. This is the wild story.
Of the woods, they marched to Hill 223, where perplexed American soldiers stood and watched the spectacle of 132 arriving German prisoners captured by York and a handful of doughboys. The story spread among the men, but the American journalists were, for the most part, busy copying the reports coming from the lost battalion, and the newly promoted Sergeant York remained unknown to the American public for quite a while. York was proud of his deeds. He did, in fact, do what he was told, and he did it well. The war itself, however, remained a mystery to him, and he could not make sense of all the carnage and destruction. In the days after the battle, he walked the forest, accompanying medics and stretcher bearers, looking for survivors among the dead. Where did God fit into all of this? Who was to live and who was to die? Mere chance or God's will? Did someone guide his hands in this? It was not until April 26, 1919, over half a year later, when the Saturday Evening Post published York's story through a journalist that had heard of him in France a few months earlier. Basically overnight, Alvin York became one of the biggest American heroes ever. He was seen as all-American, as a warrior monk who answered the call to come to America's aid. When York arrived back in the States on May 22nd, he, like the men of the Lost Battalion before him, was greeted with a hero's welcome and was paraded through the streets. Newspapers, magazines, newsreels spread his story far and wide, and he did paid speaking engagements telling his story wherever he went. He received dozens of medals, some from France and Italy, and even the American Congressional Medal of Honor. Money was not an issue anymore, at least for the moment, but York refused many offers from businesses that tried to profit from his fame through advertising. Instead, he would soon return to rural Tennessee and buy a farm, and even open up a Bible school to educate the local youth. Still, though, the thoughts of that fateful day would keep him awake for many nights in his life. Once, he had forsworn violence and given his life to God and the peaceful teachings of his Christianity. He never wanted to go to war. And once he was there, among all the death and destruction, the war had brought back a side of him that he very much wanted to forget, and he would struggle with that for the rest of his life.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I mean, the guy's never going to sleep right for the rest of his life. You know? You're not going to be the same. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you think you're the biggest, toughest, badass there is. You kill 20 people, some at point blank range like that, it's gonna mess with your head. Like, especially being somebody that just didn't want to be there, you know, was a man of God. I don't mean a priest. He just, you know, he followed the Bible and whatnot. I don't think he was a priest or anything, but it's still, you know, I can only imagine how that torments you mentally. That must have screwed this guy up. What an incredible story. So that is the story of Alvin York, and it's the subject matter of what this song is about. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to check out the music video, or the lyric video, I think that's all there is, from Sabaton. I'm interested to see how they're going to tell this story. But like I said, from everything that I've heard about them and about what they do for history and their storytelling skills and things like that, it should be pretty interesting. Like I said before, some history teachers actually show their students this sort of thing and to get them interested in history. So I don't know. Props to them for that. So let's check it out. Here it is. Sabaton, 82nd, all the way, the official lyric video. Let's go.
In the draft of 1917, a man from Tennessee. Overseas to the trenches he went, from the land of the free. Into war he brought two things along, a rifle and his faith. Joined the ranks as a private assigned to 338. There, on that day, Alvin York entered the fray, saving the day, 82nd all the way. Into the fires of hell, the young hero to be. After the war from over the sea, to be in 1918, all the way from Tennessee into 123.
Okay, yeah, these guys are, they're definitely painting a picture here for us. And I've heard this before about this band, that this is what they're known for. You know, they can tell a story in a coherent way that makes it easy to digest for everybody. And while doing it, I mean, the riff itself is incredibly catchy. The drums are punchy. I like his vocals. You know, they're clear and easy to understand, but there's definitely some darkness behind them. There's definitely some depth behind them as well. In the background of everything going on, we have some interesting arpeggios and small cinematics going on, which are just kind of offsetting some of the melodies from the guitar. Very low in the mix, but it adds to this really nice wide sound. But they do it in a way where it's so low in the mix that it's still just piercing with that guitar. Not too much bass to be heard from this just as of yet, but I'm going to try and pay attention more to the bass as we get towards the second half of this song. Let's take us back a little bit, not to destroy the flow of this jam, and keep this party moving.
When his faith has been put to the test, the call to arms he heeds. On the 8th of October he went, made a sergeant for his deeds. Fearlessly in the rain of the war, machine gun on the hill. Just the enemy taking the prisoners by power of his will. There, on the day, Sergeant York entered the fray, saving the day, 82nd all the way. say what Sergeant York achieved that day echoes from France to the USA. It's 82nd all the way, death from above, what they now say.
Oh, I like that.
Into the fire.
You know, what's cool about that solo too is, you know, it's not just a dueling guitar solo. In fact, I wouldn't even call it a dueling guitar solo. It's just two of them together, but they're playing off of each other's melodies. In the beginning of the first solo here, I heard a second undertone of the guitar, and I wasn't sure. I'm like, is that another guitar playing, or is this an overdub? What's going on? Then by the end of the solo, they were kind of playing together. Great tone, awesome job, and done in a creative way. I dig it.
All the way, death from above, what they now say.
Here comes the swoop up. Yeah. I mean, there still is rhythm.
Into the fires of hell, they are gonna hero to be. Enter the wall from over the sea. To read 1918, all the way from Tennessee. Into 120, hell, they are gonna hero to be. Enter the wall from over the sea. To read 1918, all the way from Tennessee. Into 123.
Nicely done. Nicely done. All right. Let me pause or cancel this one here. That's wild. That's absolutely wild. What an amazing job they did of just telling the story. The lyrics, having them on screen, obviously it's easy to digest, but I mean, I think this guy is just easy enough to understand. We can just understand what he's saying. But I mean, they were hitting on easy, you know, like key points of the story. You know, this all happened on Hill 223. Talks about, you know, how they made Alvin York a sergeant, about him going up the hill, about saving the day. He was all the way from Tennessee. Like the rhyming, it's good. I think the lyrics are absolutely fantastic, and I think it gives you a broad overview of the story. Now, I'm definitely glad that we watched the History Channel version first, because I probably wouldn't have known what they were talking about, because I just don't know about Alvin York. I mean, maybe I learned about him in school, but it's just not something, it's not rhetoric, it's not just knowledge that I think an everyday person knows. So now what we're going to do here is, this is a band called Amaranthe. Now, I know a little bit about these guys. I do a live reaction stream from time to time over on my Twitch, and every once in a while, people will ask for some music from these guys, and I always really enjoy them. And apparently, they're going to cover this song right now, and the guy sponsoring this video today, he asked me to check these guys out as well, so I figured, hey, what the heck, let's check it out. So let's see what Amaranthe can do with the song 82nd and All the Way. Here we go.
Ready? Aim. Okay, York. You're on your own.
It's already a lot punchier right off the bat. Drums are a little bit faster, and I'm getting a higher frequency noise. Interesting. Let's hear that one more time.
Ready? Aim. Okay, York.
Synth is more aggressive. It's a little bit faster. Damn, those drums are processed too.
In the draft of 1917, a man from Tennessee. Overseas to the trenches he went, from the land of the free.
Into war he brought two things along, a rifle and his faith. Joined the ranks as a private assigned to 338.
On the day, Alvin York entered the fray, saving the day. 82nd on the way.
Into the fires of hell, they are gonna hero to be. Enter the war from over the sea. To be
Damn. All right, this is definitely more my style, personally. Not to knock anything from Sabaton, obviously, but I just really like the direction they're taking this song. I like the sound design. I like how overly processed the drums are. The problem with doing that sometimes is the splash gets lost in the mix. And it's still there, but it's still kind of, you know, a little, I'll call it splashy. But it's definitely still fairly prevalent in the mix here. Female vocals coming in sound awesome, and she looks adorable dancing around. Probably need some flack in the comments for that one, but I enjoy it. Yeah, sounds great. I like how gritty the synth sound is as well, and I like the more a bit more up tempo these guys are bringing to the party than Sabaton did, and that's just by bringing the BPM just up just a little bit. Also, too, another interesting thing about this compared to the original is the bass is a lot more prevalent on this one. Strings seem a little bit looser, so we're getting kind of that ting in the mix, and that's probably why it's coming through, which could also be just because of the processing or how they mastered this whole thing. Let's continue this little jam. Let's keep on going. Punchy. Punchy is the right word.
When his faith had been put to the test, the call to arms he heeds. On the end of October he went, made a sergeant for his deeds.
He was leading the way of the war machine guns on the hill. Such the enemy taking the prisoners in the power of his will. There, on that day, Sergeant York entered the fray, saving the day. 82nd on the
Love his vocals.
into the fires of hell.
They are gonna hear to be. Enter the war from over the sea. To be 1918, all the way from Tennessee. Into 123.
But Sergeant York achieved that day. Oh, let go to the USA. It's 82nd on the way. They're from above what they now say. What Sergeant York achieved that day. Eight goes from President USA. It's
Now we're talking.
all the way. They're from above what they now
Again with the dual guitar, finishing those notes.
into the fires of hell.
They are gonna hear to be. Enter the war from over the sea. To be 1918, all the way from Tennessee. Into 123. They are gonna hear to be. Enter the war from over the sea. To be 1918, all the way from Tennessee. Into 123.
Oh my god. I can't get over how adorable this girl is. I love her moves. I love her dance moves. I love her little smirks and her little dancings. She seems fun. But yeah, let's talk about the song. Let's talk about the music. Let's talk about the differences from Sabaton to Amaranthe. I think they're both. I think the song itself is just an awesomely written song, and having an awesomely written original song makes it a lot easier to rewrite the song if you're doing a cover of it. I wouldn't say this is a complete rewrite because it follows the basic same formula as the original. However, they definitely add some of their own little twists in there. They threw a breakdown in there. The drums are a bit more brutal. I'm going to say that. And that's not just from how it was recorded or how it was mastered by having that processing sound. But it's an awesome sound. It's an awesome to hear sonically, just to hear how the difference in mastering of these two songs rather. And by doing so, what you're able to do is you're able to get a higher frequency or pitch out of the synths, which just gives it a bit more drive and a bit more crunch and a bit more kind of in your face kind of, it gives you like an industrial type vibe, you know, like an early or late 90s industrial type sound, which I enjoy. So as far as like the music goes, I do enjoy the music a little bit more on the Amaranthe song. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the Sabaton version because they are the originals, and why they wrote the song and what it's paying dedication to, I think is incredibly important, and there should be nothing taken away from it because I also think that's a fantastic song as well. I just like Amaranthe's version a little bit better. Also, being able to hear the bass there in the mix too is just a little bit more pleasing to me too. And the way the bass is set up too and toned, tuned, not toned, is cool too, because you can really hear some of the rattle on the strings from the bass from the frets, which just adds a little bit more expression and just another layer to the song. Plus, there's also 3 singers. One of the singers in the Amaranthe band I really enjoy. It was one of the guys, not the guy doing the screams, the gurgles, but he's got a better clean sounding. I really like his vocals. Well, I can't talk. Vocals. I really like his voice. Also, this girl here, she can sing pretty well too, but I was too entranced by the adorable dance moves. And that's not knocking her or anything. It's just fun to see somebody having fun is all I'm saying. And she was definitely having fun, and I enjoyed watching. So what we're going to do now, if you guys don't mind, is we've heard Sabaton. We've learned about the story. We've heard a cover of it now. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to see, can they do it live? All right? Is this all smoke and mirrors? Is this all studio magic? Or can they come together and actually create a pleasing sonic live experience? We're going to find out right now, because over here on this tab... we have Sabaton 82nd All the Way featuring Amaranthe. So the 2 bands we just listened to right now, I guess they come together and they're going to play this song together live. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but this was also requested as well. So I figured, hey, let's just put it all in one reaction and make one long mega reaction. Here we are. All right, let's go. Wow, look at that crowd.
All right. Mina vänner, välkomna Nils, Henke och Elise från Amaranthe! Ja, ska vi spela lite hårdrock då? 82nd, all the way!
Is he just leaving? Okay. He sounds better live. That guy, I'm not sure who that guy is, but he's just got a powerful voice. All right? There's nothing on there. There's no effect. That's clean. That's dry. And that's a man that's just projecting right there. Yeah, this guy here, whoever this guy is, he's got some awesome cleans. What is he doing back there? She sounds better live too. You can even hear the arpeggios in the mix. Okay, so let's talk about the drums here for 1 second. I'm not sure if this is the drummer of Sabaton. This is an awesome frame, by the way. I'm not sure if this is the drummer of Sabaton or if it's the drummer of Amaranthe. I'm assuming it's Sabaton's drummer because this is them featuring, or is this Sabaton featuring Amaranthe, and I guess we just got the 3 singers. I believe this dude here making this awesome O face is married to Floor from Nightwish. I could be wrong on that one, but I think they're all kind of intertwined somehow or another. I think she's married to this guy. So I think that's the original drummer. Speaking of the drums here, we're getting the drums. We're getting the music from the original version of the song, the Sabaton, because I believe the music is coming from them. We're just getting the 3 singers from Amaranthe on there, so we're just getting Sabaton's version of this song. But there is a bit of a mix-up here, and that's where that double bass just kind of came in there for that, like, I don't know, half a bar, a bar and a half, or whatever, somewhere around there. And that was just that little, almost like an overextended type fill, which feels like it was almost like kind of paying tribute to Amaranthe's version, because they had a lot more of that in their version. And I did not notice this in the original Sabaton thing. So it seems like they're really trying to kind of play off each other's versions and really just share both of theirs. Pretty cool, though. Pretty damn cool. Let's take us back just a little bit and continue our journey. Safe. Also, that's got to be the coolest view from any drummer ever. Like, let's just talk about the set design here for 1 second. It's pretty damn wild. They got a big screen behind them. It looks like he's on top of a tank playing the drums. And you got like the, I don't know what it's called, the barrel, the tank barrel, just shooting out, and then you just see the crowd. It swung around there for a second. It just looked really cool. They got like little sandbags up over here. It looks like they're literally in some sort of like camp or some kind of base in the middle of war. Like, look at these things too, little pillars. So there's some wires attached to them and stuff. This has got to be one of the more interesting set designs I've ever seen. All right, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna try and save most of my opinions for after the song. I just want to hear of it. But there's just a lot of cool things happening that I wanted to point out. But let's continue. Watch this view when the camera spins around. Watch from his view when it comes up over here. Right? That's cool. Brutal. Is he gonna come back out? Oh, he's back. Beautiful. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. There's a lot of things I really like about that. Let's go back over here for 1 second. It's cool how they all kind of, all those singers went back to the thing, and then the lead singer of Sabaton, I'm sorry, I don't know his name. I probably should have figured that out before I did this. But I'm getting a lot of information thrown at me here. Invited them all back up here to what we'll call center stage, all to just rock out together. Now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 different singers. There might be 7, 6 or 7 different singers, because the guitar guys over at Sabaton, they sing as well too. They got some awesome backing tracks, and they were all coming together here towards the end, and it just sounded magnificent, you know, having all those harmonies pushed together. I want to talk about how much better they sound live than they do on the studio, and that's not to say that their studio recordings are bad at all. My only issue I had with Sabaton's original recording was how low the bass was in the mix, but they still had arpeggios and some sort of cinematics in the background, which still kind of gave it a wide feeling. I enjoyed the harsher, more abrasive style of Armored a little bit better, but that's just because it suits my own taste just a little bit more. But I can see the importance and I can see the beauty and talent in both bands, and that's for sure. And what's really cool to see is it's not just smoke and mirrors. It's not just all studio magic. It's not just overly processed vocals or equipment or instruments or whatnot. It's actually projecting live as well. And what a live show this is. I mean, they've got an incredible stage setup. The crowd seems pretty into it. It's kind of hard to see, but there's definitely a lot of them out there, that's for sure. And yeah, this stage setup is one of the more interesting stage setups I've ever seen. I think it's really, really cool. I can't wait to do more. I can't wait to do more. And after doing this reaction, it makes me both excited to continue with Sabaton and Amaranthe. Now, as I do continue with Sabaton, I'm probably going to do more of these long format style videos because a band doing something like this, to me is interesting, and I feel like it just warrants a little bit more time and a little bit more understanding. And if I want to experience it, let's experience it right, instead of just doing a reaction and be like, hey, this sounds cool or that's neat. Let's learn about some of the history behind it. Let's learn about why this song or what went into creating a song like this. So I'm going to be trying to find videos that kind of explain that, and we can just kind of enjoy them together. Guys, I hope you enjoyed your time with me today. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing because I do this sort of thing all the time, and I'd love to have you here with me. All right, guys, you guys have yourself a fantastic night. I'm going to catch you out in the next video. Bye, everybody.